about to fall. We're gonna open your eyes so you can see who you're gonna call if you wanna be free. GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS!
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS. It is time for the problem with Globers. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeran from Jeranism. Don't worry, don't get too attached to me. I think that Austin and I will be splitting duties so that you don't get tired of me. He'll be running the show sometimes, but today you got me and you got no Austin. Austin is dealing with something with the baby, I think. No problems, just I think his wife works or something and he's got to watch the baby, something like that. Anyway, he will not be with us today, but you've got myself, which is as good as Austin and then some. So, and then you've got Zachary is here as well. Zach, welcome to the show.
Jeran, thanks so much, man. Great day I'm having over here. How's your day going today?
Fantastic. So far, so good. I can't complain.
Awesome, man. Good to hear.
Not that anybody would listen anyway. And we've got Kyle's here as well. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, so we got a couple things we'll cover, and then we're going to get into the problem with Globers, and we're going to ask the chat to help us out. We're going to kind of have you guys call out some issues that you think you see with Globers. And then what we'll do at the hour mark is we're going to go over to Rockfin, and we will explore all those things much deeper. So kind of the first hour will be a little bit topical, and I want to show some things. What happened this week? We had a Austin with Robertson Genis. I don't know if you guys caught that. That was a good show. We also, I moderated a debate between Fight the Flat Earth and Bro Sanchez. That was a pay-per-view event on Friday. And
how did that go?
It went okay. I mean, this is why I kind of thought of the topic of the problem with Globers is because I saw it with Craig and I've seen it over and over again. It's like let me see how I explain this. They put this emphasis on things that match what they expect, right? So they'll bring up something like, oh, well, we shoot radar off the sun, even though they've never shot a radar off the sun, ever, right? They are the opposite of skeptical. They are just believers. They believe these people who say that they've done it. And then they'll say, if you try and question it and say, well, I don't think that they've done that. Like, well, there's the paperwork. The papers say it. And you're like, yeah, but, and they go, no, well, we expected a certain result, and then we went out and we tested it, and we got that result, and therefore the Earth's a globe. And it's like they're the people who are going to be fooled the quickest. I mean, think about everything that Flat Earth has done. Think of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica that we totally busted the fraud that video is, right? So Globers would have never found that. Ever. Because,
no, never, ever.
No, they just would have accepted
just believe it.
Believe in it, right? So this has happened numerous times. I mean, the maybe we can even look at it, but the Stephen Hawking Genius episode is probably one of the worst pieces of garbage propaganda I've ever seen. Every single experiment was faked. There is no way you can hide a helicopter behind 24 feet. Even if it's not even 24 feet. They were so lazy. All they did was go to the curve calculator and say, okay, we're going to do 6 miles. What's the curve calculator say? It says 24 feet. Okay, great. Paying no attention to the fact that their telescope was like 3 or 4 feet off the ground. So right away, your curvature goes from 24 feet down to like 10, which the helicopter itself is higher than 10 feet. So we've seen the videos. They have these 3 birds fly by twice, once when the helicopter is going down, once when it's coming up, which means it's just a fabricated piece of propaganda. We know that they didn't level the laser to start with, so the laser test itself off the boat had nothing at all behind it. We've shown that the helicopter is faced the wrong way, which means it's a completely edited film. It's not even the actual experiment. We've got 3 ordinary people, but one of those ordinary people is a data visualization scientist at NASA at Goddard. The other one claims in the show, I'm not a scientist, but is really a scientist. It just is disgusting. And yet, we're the only ones who would have ever found that. We would have the only ones who would have ever pointed that out. Globers would have just said, what a great program. And this is the problem with them, is that they because they're already sold on the globe Earth, just everything you can imagine is evidence of a globe Earth. Even me saying interesting at the end of a movie, still it's evidence of a globe Earth to them. It's great evidence to them. But anything that
They're
we
caught
say,
red-handed, and yet they turn a blind eye to it.
right? And then and then on their side, anything at all they can consider. And then if we have anything, it's they need to know all the facts, right? They need to know this, that. We need to know what the temperature was, what the gradient was, all these facts. But as long as I say interesting, that's all they need. So it's like that's my biggest problem with Globers is this hypocritical position, and then to take this all on faith when the definition of science to me is being skeptical. It's not to just go along with the mainstream. I mean, what a joke! These guys used to be. It used to be about being a skeptic. It's not anymore.
Yeah, that's what science is
Right.
testing everything, and then if it doesn't fit, figuring out what is,
Correct.
supposed to fit. You don't just take their word for it.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because what Craig ended, and I almost spoke up, but I realized I'm just I'm a moderator. I shouldn't be, speaking up, so I didn't. But I wanted to because at the end of his little presentation, or to close out his closing, he said, "Oh, and as Feynman said, if something doesn't match our observations or our theory, then the theory's false." And he just ended that way, and I wanted to tune in and go, "But except for what? When dark matter and dark energy come into play?" Because they don't realize
It's an anomaly, right?
Yeah, but it's like if you have a theory of gravity and you say, okay, this is how gravity works and here's the equations, and then they look up in the sky and they say, oh, gravity doesn't work anymore up there, then what you're supposed to do is get rid of the theory. You're supposed to, that's what Feynman said. That's what he was saying. He was giving that quote. But instead, they have added a placeholder. They have put a mathematical placeholder and said, well, we think that our gravity is correct, so then it means that we're just missing something else, so we'll just make it up and hold the place until we find it. But that's the complete opposite of what, if something doesn't match the theory, then it means it's false. So he said that, and he's like, but you don't believe any of that.
That's the difference between Kuhn and Popper. Popper says you get rid of the theory, that's what you're required to do. Kuhn says, no, you just call it an anomaly and you move on. And that's called normal science to him.
I don't know if I would go there. Yeah, it's not normal science. So, I did a TikTok video yesterday just kind of making fun of Michio Kaku because that guy can that guy keep screwing up more and more?
He's on our side.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
dude's a flat earther.
I think so. He says the most awkward things. I mean, the 10 to the 120th is a really good, story here. I can bring up. Well, do I have this? Let me see if I have this ready for you. Show that to people. But I just did that because there's three things. There's that. There's the 10 to the 120. There's him saying that nobody in my field that I know of uses the so-called scientific method. That's hilarious because it is, by definition, then pseudoscience. So everything that all these guys believe, and they believe in saying they hate pseudoscience, they love science, and then you've got your own theoretical physicist saying that nobody in his field, note that, nobody, uses the scientific method. Well, the definition of pseudoscience is anything being pushed as science that isn't compatible with the scientific method. So, I mean,
and then the moment he says that, everyone just throws him on the bus and turns a blind eye to it. They don't care anymore.
No, it's crazy to me. It's just, and it's because these guys are kind of, leaking out some of this information. It seems to me, I don't know if you guys saw Professor Dave's debate. That guy is such a child. Did you guys watch his debate with James Tour about the origins of life?
No, I can't watch Professor Dave.
Oh man, he was telling the audience in the middle of his thing, he'd be saying something and they would boo him, and then he would tell the audience, hey, "You guys shut up! You're not even close to smart enough to get what I'm saying." He'd just tell the whole audience that, like, you guys couldn't have this conversation with me if your life depended on it. So stop butting in.
Jeez,
it's like, holy smokes!
What an arrogant ass!
Oh, he's such a child. And then, like, at the end, somebody said even like, hey, can you each say something nice about each other so that we can get on the right, And then James Tour's like, I respect him for this and I respect him for that. And then they go to him and he's like, well, I respect his ability to be a freaking liar. And it's like, holy smoke, dude, you just can't even be a good person if your life depended on it. Really bad. Really very
And
bad.
I mean, some people are assholes,
Hey,
my language, but they're out there. And that I can deal with. But what I don't deal well with and why I don't speak to most of these people is because they're not being genuine,
Right.
in my opinion. I mean, I have talked to a lot of these people, Bob the science guy. I mean, years ago, especially with perspective and optics. Remember when Rory, that guy, he had the 5K challenge
Yep.
Who's going to show how perspective isn't taken into account in the Earth curve calculator? Well, I showed him. I said, well, and brought that up with Bob the science guy in person, well, not in person, but, we talked.
Right.
And then 2-3 shows later, whoop, that's gone. And he's back to his old, never even mentions it. They're not genuine people.
No, they're disingenuous. Yeah, I think the
They
same
don't
thing.
care about the truth. So
No.
I don't care to associate with them or even speak to them. I don't want to.
They're almost there for fun. Like, I think, again, these guys just had nothing going for them, and then they're like, oh, I can attack flat Earth. And they're just having a good time doing it. I think that's all that it is.
Mark Sargent calls them necessary evils, and there might be some truth to that, but I don't know. I don't really care to fuel their fire very much.
No, and there's so many, especially these militant ones and the the hardcore atheists. I mean, how these guys don't think they have a belief. Like Aaron Ross goes around saying, I don't have beliefs. I don't, it's like, what are you talking about? Like everything that you think science has proven is a belief. You have to believe.
Yeah, unless you've tested it yourself.
And even then, I don't even know the people that tested themselves. Like if you tested it yourself,
Yeah,
and
then
you did,
it's
carbon
not
dating or
necessarily the
something,
reason or the cause. Yeah, exactly.
Right. You don't know.
And
So-
those are some of the biggest people that say science never proves anything, right? And so the moment you say that, that automatically takes everything that comes out of your mouth as pure belief.
Yeah, I mean, I think science can get close to proving things, but I don't know if it necessarily can prove things unless you have a complete and total assessment of everything involved, which sometimes you do. I mean, again, but then there are things that science doesn't really need to be proving, like, do humans eat food? Well, we don't need science for that. There's nobody can blame science or give any science any credit for that answer. That answer
I guess that
is
depends on how you're
self-explanatory.
defining science, because I just look at systematized knowledge in general, and that is by definition science. So yeah, you don't have to do an experiment in order for it to be science.
You don't have to do an experiment for it to be science?
Yeah, it's just taking random trivial facts. Okay, well, cats have fur, at least some cats have fur, and it's just taking just data, and it's just raw data, and that can be considered science. It's just systematized knowledge in general.
Yeah, in order to do an experiment, certain requirements need to be met.
Right.
But
Yeah,
just
but if it's just
science
systematized,
itself
not
as a
like-
body, yeah.
Yeah, like a dictionary. A dictionary is systematized knowledge in general. These are all the words, these are all the definitions. And so by definition, a dictionary is scientific.
Never thought of it that way. But yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it is, I think that is, it's a collection of knowledge, which I guess would include self-explanatory things as well. But I guess we just, did science prove them? Well, no, they've been proven by themselves. They don't, it's not science that proved it.
Academia uses the word science super loosely. That's why you see computer science and the humanities is considered a science, and all these different degrees you can get out there. You just see science on like everything, even though they're not necessarily doing like the typical scientific method type experiments.
Right. Which I think then you can get as close as you possibly can to proving something. But again, you'd have to have all the parameters. We could wake up in 100 years and find things that we didn't know about, right? I've talked about it before with the, what causes sunburn, and it could have been something completely different in 1700 where they didn't know about UV rays. They would have technically been wrong in their proof of whatever they thought it was. Let me show you this, if I can get this up here, and then just to show you Michio Kaku, because I think what he says at the end, I don't know if you guys heard his comments on
There
gravity.
is a crisis.
There you go. Give me a second, I'll get it on the
screen. Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that trouble. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. In science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method.
Something is wrong. We may have to revise our theory of the creation of the universe. So you think that these galaxies are huge when they're actually baby galaxies. Now, I personally think that the solution to the problem is These are not baby galaxies at all. They're actually monstrous black holes.
Paul, we have the theory of gravity. Gravity keeps you on this floor. Gravity attracts everything around its vicinity to create gravity around the Earth. Or, as we say in our astronomy courses when we teach our kids, gravity sucks. Gravity sucks evenly. It pulls everything to the center. But then Einstein gave us a different picture. Gravity doesn't suck at all. We tell our students, we lied to you. Gravity does not pull you to the floor. Space pushes you down. Why are you sitting in your chair today? Does gravity pull you to the floor? No. There is no such thing as gravitational pull. We lied to you. There's no such thing as gravitational pull. We lied to you.
So, people can choose
That's
to go,
horrible.
people can choose to go cuckoo for Michio Kaku if you want, but again, now, these guys are just something new every day. Now, galaxies are actually black holes. Gravity no longer is an attractive force. It's now space is pushing you down. There is no gravitational pull. We lied to you. Yet you'll have all these guys going around saying it's been proven, Cavendish, this proof. It's just baffling to me that they don't even see that their own religion is not doing well. One thing for that is definitely the origin of species or evolution, not doing well at all. And they can't face the facts, so they're just going to keep arguing its point. And this is what's most damaging, I guess, about science and things like that, is that it's run by men, right? And men are egotistical, and they'll tell lies for any reason. They'll tell lies for $5, so they're going to tell lies to save their name in science. And they're just going to keep pushing incorrect ideas and theories because they don't want to face the music, which would definitely be playing if they all of a sudden had to retract on some of their beliefs or some of their formerly held beliefs. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, and most of them don't even know the physics behind all this stuff.
No.
Like, I shouldn't even be saying this, all right?
Okay.
I hate giving them ammunition, the other side. But if we are discussing gravity with someone and they think it's when you drop something here on Earth and it falls to the ground, then you're playing chess with pigeons.
Right.
Stop. All right? If they don't know that they had to make the ionosphere, they had to because of the way this place works with electricity. I mean, we've shown you multiple times Walter Lewin saying it flat out. Austin shown you a bunch of times. Electricity is what holds the Earth together, up to thousands of kilometers out. It's electricity. He says it flat out. Gravity is the moon going around the Earth, or, us going around the sun, or the sun going around the solar system. It has nothing to do with us dropping stuff here on Earth. So if you're arguing with someone and they think it's this dropping on Earth, stop. You're playing chess with pigeons. You're never going to win.
And he gave him a good name, Michio Kaku.
Kaku.
Michio Kaku. Yeah,
I'm still thinking about the Brian Cox moment where he claimed that the Earth was accelerating upwards. It was him who was saying that, and he's pointing fingers over at the Flat Earth Society and saying the Flat Earthers got it right, even though no Flat Earther believes that. But that was his claim: is the Earth is accelerating upward, and that's the whole reason why things fall. And I'm just like, what? Because if everything, like, if the Earth were a globe for a moment here, and the entire globe were accelerating outward continually, it would be continually exploding. It's just totally ridiculous. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, for sure. And yeah, you asked about, Fight the Fat Shirt and Bro Sanchez. I thought it was decent. I mean, it could be, I don't like moderating because I want to jump in so many times. So, some of the arguments Bro Sanchez gave, I disagreed with. Obviously, almost everything that Craig gave, I disagreed with. He had this one. Let me bring this stuff. I can find this page. So he kept going to this claim that we've measured the distance to the sun with radar, right? So, again, and you have Bro Sanchez who was just saying, "Oh, well, show us more evidence of that test," and He's like, well, here it is. Here's the paper. Here's how it works. That's how they always go, right? It's just it's easy. It's exactly what we expected, and therefore it's proof. And so then I go looking at this paper. Let me bring it up and show you here if I can. Which one is this over here? Let me pop that over there. Okay. So this is the paper that he was going off of here. So this is from McToon's site. What do people know about the sun? Radar bounces off the sun. Radio echoes from the sun. Let's just read this and see if it matches kind of what the paper is, which is radar was bounced off the sun. A distinct pattern of long and short pulses were sent and received. So when you see this sentence, it makes it sound so cut and dry. Anybody can do this. You just go and you just send radar off the sun. It bounces. A distinct pattern of long and short pulses is sent and received. Bingo, bango. That's all you need to know. This confirms the sun is a physical object and the distance matches other measurements. So see, now, if they were going to deceive anybody, they would set this all up, and then they would have these people find all these things, and they all would say the same thing, right? Oh, it confirms it. Oh, it's absolute. The results show us exactly what we expected. So here's the direct link to the PDF. Yeah, so, I started reading through this, and you just, of course, get a different opinion here. First of all, it's talking about, for the April 1959 sun echo tests, a transmitter having about 40 kilowatts average output power was operated at about 25.6 megacycles. The transmitter was pulsed on and off alternatively throughout a time interval of 15 minutes, each on and each off period lasting 30 seconds. The antenna system used for both transmission and reception consisted of 4 rhombic antennas in a broadside array covering a rectangular area of 800 by 725 feet. That's like 3 football fields by 2.5 football fields. So what do they mean? That's how big the transmitting antennas and the receiving antennas were as big as
Yeah, probably like HARP, like multiple antennas, but instead of going straight up and stacked that way, they were probably spread out horizontally along the earth.
Okay, so it says the antenna gain estimated to be 25 decibels relative to that of an omnidirectional antenna. See if we can get over here. So it talks about the travel time of the radar pulse of the sun, 93 million miles, to the Earth is about 1,000 seconds, which is 16 minutes. At the end of the transmitting period of 900 seconds, the antenna was connected directly to the receiving system, and the transmitter and pulsing circuits were turned off. The receiver and its preamplifier are a conventional design. An intermediate frequency bandwidth of 2,000 cycles per second was used, and this band was translated with the receiver beat frequency oscillator so that its lower end was at 0 frequency. Then it talks about the receiver was turned to the transmitted frequency since the computed Doppler shift was less than 25 cycles per second. Then it goes here, trials were scheduled for each morning, the 5th through the 13th of April. Okay, so every morning they're going to do this whole setup with the 15 minutes and things, inclusive. Because of various difficulties, for example, equipment failures, timing, ambiguity, radio interference, recordings suitable for intensive analysis were obtained only on 7, 10, and 12 of April. So it's already, you can tell that they obviously didn't get good results for the other days, right? So they're actually going through their results and finding the ones that match what they're looking for so that they can tell everybody, look, it matched what we're looking for, right? The test procedure for September 1958 differed in several respects from that described above. The recorded data have not yet been analyzed in detail. In September 1959, changes were made in the coding of the transmitted waves and in the antenna. The antenna modification was made for the need of the program for which the antenna was first constructed and was designed for short pulse work only. A risk was taken in operating the modified antenna for a long pulse needed for the solar experiment. It goes on and kind of talked. Oh, wait, let's see. Data analysis was proceeding when it was discovered that certain antenna components had failed during the testing so that the antenna performance was seriously impaired. Therefore, interest was diverted to the April 1959 test results, and only those are being discussed further. So again, they're going through and kind of pulling out exactly what matches. Here's these like pulses that it's getting, and just if there's an anomaly, it doesn't match what they think. They're like, oh, that's a noise burst. If it comes up here or this one here again, noise burst, right? So it's just to me, like I went looking. I said, okay, let me see somebody do this, because if anything can be done, it's on YouTube, right? If it can be done, it's not sex.
Yeah, exactly.
So I went to YouTube and I just said, show me radar pulses off the sun. There's nothing. Nobody's doing this. This is why they're presenting you with a paper from, what the hell year is this from? 1960. So, I mean, give me a break. These guys went and measured the
I think
distance
if
to
it
the
was
sun.
that big, they'd put it on video or something, right?
Or, yeah, at least do it again. At least, I mean, we haven't gotten better since 1960. The ability to do this hasn't gotten better because now they claim, we bounce it off of, Venus and we bounce it off of. And then you have to think in a 16-minute travel time, then the Earth has moved, or the person on the Earth has moved, if it's a spinning
So
ball Earth.
far.
Yeah, it's something like
So
250 miles, right? If it's 1,000 miles per hour, then it's 250 per quarter hour, which this is 16 minutes. And, if you're maybe, say, in Northern California, maybe you only go 150 miles rather than 200. But whatever. So they're sending a pulse, and then they're moving 250 miles and then receiving the
Yeah,
pulse.
but think about the Earth moving around the sun even.
Yeah,
That thing's flying at like, what, 30 kilometers a second?
So, yeah, well, if it's 66,000 miles or 66,600, 600.
It's definitely not described as a smooth surface to just bounce off of it. It could get deflected off into another direction, But the biggest thing that I think about right there is just radar jamming, just getting scrambled, because that's like how many bombs going off at once, like continuously. That's going to totally scramble and disrupt that signal unintelligibly.
Yeah, and I'm all for somebody whoever claims they can do this, invite me to wherever you're at. Invite me to come see this. Invite me to come see you guys measure parallax. Invite me to see these things that I don't even believe really take place anymore. I don't think anybody's out shooting radar off the sun. So I came up with 16,650 miles it would have moved in space in reference to this going around the sun in that 16 minutes. So, again,
I think they learned a lot from Eric Dollard about what,
yeah,
they want people looking at and the tools they give them. I bet they vet their people a lot more, strict nowadays.
yeah.
And you're signing some kind of disclosure agreement if you're playing with their toys, I bet.
Yeah, I think so too. So again, it's just, and these guys just buy this. Think about it. Like, nobody is going to skeptically look at this paper. That's a globe believer. They're just not going to do it. And that's, one of my biggest problems is that I feel like we're just fighting an uphill battle, and to argue with those guys is just like, you might as well yell at the wall. The wall has a legitimate better chance of coming to this paper and actually reading it skeptically than these globe earth believers. And that's sad.
Yeah. And for, the ones that are being honest, I understand now. I'm starting to learn that there are people out there. Walt told me this. We were on Ironworks. I think it was Tuesday morning. And it was, okay, he asked the question, did you have lunch? And the person said, well, yes, I had lunch. He was like, well, how do you feel? He's like, well, I'm not hungry anymore. He's like, okay, now imagine that you didn't have lunch. And they can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just imagine you didn't have lunch.
Right.
Well, I did have lunch.
Right.
It's like, no, but imagine. It's like, but I did. And they just can't get over that. They can't imagine. Like, what you would feel like. I might feel hungry then, like I was before I ate.
They should be able to
it just doesn't. Out. Yeah. You would think that everybody would be able to do that, but I guess we all can't do that.
And they just end up, it's just, my problem with Globers is that they have to be so dogmatic and religious, because if they actually just assess things on their own merit and said, okay, do you believe a neutron star weighs a teaspoon weighs 22 billion pounds? Anybody in the world should say, no, I don't believe that. To me, anybody who says, yes, I believe, why would you believe that? How could anybody even weigh what you're talking about? How could anybody even, it's just a mathematical figure that makes everything work out for them by giving some stars so much freaking mass, so much density that that it weighs 22 billion pounds. A teaspoon, like you're eating 6 Cheerios off a spoon. Those 6 Cheerios weigh 22 billion pounds. It's retardation, really.
It's times like these that we're turning into China, where if you disagree with what the government says, you get consequences.
Just gonna try and, somebody says my mic is low. I'm gonna try and fix that.
Unless more people actually speak up against stream, then turning into China, it's just a matter of time.
Well, yeah, I think that's what's going to be really important about what Austin's doing with these NASA audits. Mm-hmm. And people going there and doing these things. We have to support them and call in and put in, not so much even call in, but you could Don't get me wrong; those aren't bad either. But put them on public forum post at NASA, whatever the actual place Austin went to. It'll be on Google Maps. So go to Google Maps in the reviews and write a review. Hey, why'd you kick that guy out? Or blah 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 blah. I saw a guy ask a question about this, and are you guys lying to us? Or just start. We need to flood them with messages. We need to let them know that we know.
I agree. Mindflux, can you tell me if the mics are fixed? Please let me know. So I want to show you something else that I saw that was maybe you guys have the answer to this. I was hoping that Austin would be here because he might know better than I would, or I don't know how you guys feel about your math, but I was watching, somebody told me again that we can measure the distance to the moon or something with a camera. I'm like, well, no, you can't, because you're going to get the same answer for the sun then, because they're the same size. So how could you use your camera or use something on Earth and measure the distance to the sun? You have the moon, because the sun is the same size in the sky. Therefore, if you've measured the distance to the moon,
nonsensical.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. So then they sent me this video from Scott Manley. You know who he is? He does all kinds of space stuff and rocket stuff. But I'm trying to find. He's got this video called how I measured the moon with just a camera. So like, okay, I want to listen to this. I want to see what he's got to say. But oh wait, I know where I put it. I got to find an easier way to get the link over here. When you watch this video, we'll see if you guys can notice what I noticed right away. I'm like, wait a second, what? And from there, I think it kind of exposes itself. Let me find here. I got to go to here, and where is here? Okay. Sorry, I just don't want to look through his channel and just take it from his place I sent it. Okay, right. Nope, not that one. 1 second. Come on. I sent too many messages to this person. That's obvious. Come on, Scott. Where is this? Okay, here we go. This one here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring up this video, put it over here for you, and you guys should be able to see it here in a second. YouTube. So, okay, so let's listen to Scott's 7-minute video, but see if anybody notices what could be the problem here. And actually, I'll share the screen with you guys so you can see it.
Hello, it's Scott Manley here. Now, last Sunday I published this rather beautiful picture of the moon and Venus on the internet. Posted it to my Twitter, at which point people started coming back with their own pictures. And Monev44 showed me his picture and wondered whether there would be any observable parallax there. Now, parallax is basically where you have two slightly different viewpoints of the same object that will have slightly different angular positions. But moreover, if you can measure the parallax, you can actually figure out the distance to the object if you know where your observers are standing. So we thought, let's try and measure the distance to the moon using nothing more than cameras. I would be in California and he would be over 2,000 miles away in upstate New York. So on Thursday night, as soon as it became possible for me to take pictures of stars, I got a picture of the moon with some stars, and we synchronized our clocks so that he would take pictures at exactly the same time. Now that we have the two images, we want to measure them so that we can tell whether the moon is in a slightly different position. And what we did was we essentially overlaid the two photographs and then rotated and adjusted them until the three brightest stars lined up perfectly on both images. So we can see that between the east coast and the west coast, the moon is in a slightly different position, but we want to measure this. So we identified the three brightest stars. Now we need to figure out which stars they are, so we go to a sky map that shows us that these are three stars from the constellation of Virgo. We can even read out their actual coordinates in the sky in right ascension and declination. And that's important because then we need to use that to scale the distances on our photographs. So we measure the distance between the first pair and we get a distance of 1,560 pixels. On the sky, we know that that's 4.341 degrees. So from that, we surmise that our photograph has a scaling of 359.5 pixels per degree on the sky. And since we have three stars, we can actually do that for the other pairs, and we get a scaling of 356.9 and 357.2. So we're all roughly in agreement. Finally, we find a common reference point on both moon images. So I use the furthest point on the dark side of the moon. I don't use the light side of the moon because it's so bright, so overexposed to make the stars visible that the light is actually bleeding over into neighboring pixels. But on the dark side, it's only illuminated by Earthshine. So I can get a pretty good measurement here. And between the two images, I measure a difference of 112 pixels. And based on the scaling we've seen elsewhere, that's 0.312 degrees. And for small parallaxes, you can figure out the distance by dividing the baseline length by the parallax and then multiplying by 57.3, essentially to convert from degrees into radians. But figuring out the baseline was actually a little more complicated than simply dragging a line between two places on a map.
Okay, why is this? Why is figuring out the baseline is more difficult than drawing a line like that and calling that your baseline? Let's hear why is it different?
Because each place was on the surface of a three-dimensional globe. If the moon happened to be right in the middle of the US, then yes, we could do that. But when we looked at the actual positions of the moon on the sky, figured out the altitude and the azimuth, well, it turns out that the moon was more like seeing this angle. So the distance between these two spots on this map is what we had to use. And I actually ended up descending into the twin hells of spreadsheets and spherical trigonometry, because regular trigonometry only works on a plane. We have a special type of trigonometry that works on the surface of spheres. So using all that and then projecting everything back onto the plane, yeah, we got a baseline of about 1,885 kilometers.
Time out. You got a baseline of 1,885 kilometers. Okay, let's see what that is in miles. 1,885 kilometers to miles is 1,171. So what are you doing?
And how far away were they?
They're showing that there are people in
like cross country, right?
Yeah, California to New York. So this is what I'm talking about. So it seems to me that this is a back engineered thing where the number
2,300 miles, 2,400 miles.
So and he just said
down to 1,100.
1,100. That's our baseline. We did did a couple numbers and we carried a 7, and then we got the baseline of 1,171. And then we just did the math, and what do you know? It came out just exactly what we expect the moon to be. I was like, what? You cut this distance, and I mean, it's just ridiculous to me that, like, what is going on? Why would this person feel okay about putting this video out? Maybe I missed something. Let's watch it again. You tell me if I'm missing something.
On a map, because each place was on the surface of a three-dimensional globe. If the moon happened to be right in the middle...
And don't even say anybody that it's the chord length, because you can do a chord calculator, right? Chord calculator. Because if you wanted to figure out what is the chord length, if you said, well, they're just drawing... Oh, not that. That's not what I'm talking about. Circle chord. Circle chord.
And where in the sky was this? Like, how high up in the sky? Why wouldn't they take it when it was like in between both of them?
Good question. I don't know that answer. Let me see if... Okay, good. So this is showing you here. You've got... This is the chord length. So if you have the... whatever this would be, arc length, right? Then you can get the... So from... Let's see if there's a calculator here. So radius would be 3959. Angle would be, well, okay, I'm gonna think about this. So we are talking about a distance of 2,500 miles. So you came up with? So if we take 2,500 and divide that by the 69 degrees per mile, we get 36, I guess. Somebody's put in 36 here. See if that gets right. 36. And it's going to calculate for us. Okay, so yeah, so your arc length is 2487, meaning from here to here is 2487, and the chord length is 2446. So the chord length is not cut. We're not cutting it in, that number in half. That's what they basically did. They went from saying it was, well, it's 2,300 miles, and now they're going to take it as the math is 1171. So they're clearly not taking any kind of chord length. They just basically made it up, I guess. Let's continue.
Well, yeah, they're saying that. I think what he's saying is the moon was probably to the east of even the guy in New York, let's say.
You mean to the west? I think because he kind of flew out here and said that it was out. He says it here. He kind of says the moon was out here. He kind of gives us a view.
Okay, so it's way to the west.
Right, but your baseline for...
So now see how the line looks like it's shrunk because you turn the globe? But why would you wait till then? Why not do it when the moon is directly between both of you?
But doesn't the baseline of a triangle still have to be this line between the two observers, and then you just draw the line?
Yeah, but see how the line got shorter? How it...
What
like
line?
if we were looking directly at the United States, it would be wider. But since it's turned and skewed like that, the line to our perspective, the two dots
see, I
got
don't
a
think
little
that
bit closer
matters.
together.
I don't think that could matter in your measuring. It's still the bottom of a triangle.
Well, refraction is going to be their biggest problem. So they're basing all of their measurements on straight lines. And the moment those lines start to bend, you're going to ruin all of your calculations.
Yeah,
I mean, it had to be pretty low in the sky for the guy in New York, you would think.
I would think so, yeah.
You do it when it was right between you two at its highest point, for like
you
an
wouldn't
average
want
for
to
both
deal
of
with
you.
you wouldn't want to deal with the atmosphere. You wouldn't want to deal with anything that low.
Exactly.
You'd want it to be at least 30 degrees or higher, I would think. But obviously, it couldn't have been. I don't think it could be 30 degrees and be that out in the ocean. But let's let him finish in case I'm missing something.
But figuring out the...
Oh, so let's see what this is real quick. So this is... Then the distance to the object is baseline over parallax. And this is the parallax? So you could... Is he saying you could take the baseline of, let's say it's 2,300 miles divided by the parallax, which is 57.3 degrees? I don't think that that's right. Yeah, that's not going to help me with anything. All right, let's continue.
But figuring out the baseline was actually a little more complicated than simply dragging a line between two places on a map, because each place was on the surface of a three-dimensional globe. If the moon happened to be right in the middle of the US, then yes, we could do that. But when we looked at the actual positions of the moon on the sky, figured out the altitude and the azimuth, well, it turns out that the moon was more like seeing this angle. So the distance between these two spots on this map is what we had to use. And I actually ended up descending into the twin hells of spreadsheets and spherical trigonometry because...
Sorry, I just wanted to look at these numbers real quick, see if I can get anything out of this. So, Oakland, longitude, latitude. Then we have Morner. I guess that's the place in LA, or I mean in New York. Longitude, latitude. Great Circle distance. Oakland. I don't know why those numbers don't look right there. Bearing. I don't know. I can't get it. Linear distance to Oakland. 50-20 linear distance 63-42. Yeah, I don't know where they're getting those numbers from. What is 50-20 linear distance to Oakland from the moon? I think that's right. And then linear distance to New York from the moon would be further. And
I don't get it. Where's the azimuth? I want to know the angles that they took these pictures from.
I don't think that they're showing.
They're withholding information.
Let's continue.
Regular trigonometry only works on a plane. We have a special type of trigonometry that works on the surface of spheres. So using all that and then projecting everything back onto the plane, yeah, we got a baseline of about 1,885 kilometers. So plugging that baseline back into the parallax equation, we get a distance of 346,000 kilometers, which isn't quite right. The real distance is more like 384. So, this is about 10% of the accuracy. I mean, I think I could definitely do better. First of all, the geometry we ended up with was lousy. We basically had to shoot before it set on the East Coast. If you're going to do this, it's actually better to do it in a north-south configuration so that everybody has roughly the same sunrise or moonrise and moonset. I did also try another way of measuring the motion of the moon that didn't require me to overlay the images, just measured the distances to the known reference stars and then do a whole bunch of math. That gave me a slightly higher parallax of 0.315, which actually made the result worse. Now, it was great working cross-country with Manev 44, but I'm going to say it's actually technically possible to measure or at least estimate the distance to the moon using just a single camera and different times. So here's two different zoomed in shots of the moon taken at different times. The one on the left was taken when the moon is high in the sky. The one on the right was taken when it was down near the horizon. Remember when I said that you have to account for the fact that the observers are on the surface of a globe? Well, that means that when the moon is down near the horizon, that it's actually got a little further to go, so in theory it should be slightly smaller than when the moon is directly overhead, because when it's directly overhead it's about 6,500 kilometers closer to us. So using the magic of graphical manipulation, we can fold these two halves together at the same scale, be clear, and lo and behold, there is a very small difference between the moon that was pictured at the horizon and the moon that was pictured at highest altitude, that is the highest angular altitude above the horizon. One of the nice things about this technique is you can actually take photos of the moon during the daylight. So this image, which was taken when the moon was about 40 degrees above
Okay, this
just
doesn't
to show
prove
that you
anything.
can.
No, it doesn't.
All right. The sun does the same thing.
Right.
And we're not getting further away and closer to the sun daily. All right. It's less. I think the moon is what is it?
Well, because the moon does, well, it's saying in the course of one night, I think he comes out to like 1% or something.
Yeah, percentages. The moon does it like, well, it does more than I think 1%, because the sun does like 1 to 1.5, almost 2% every day, and about 5 to 6 throughout the year, where the moon does up to 13% difference each month.
Yeah.
And daily it's like maybe 3 degrees or 3%, something like that. I forget. It's been so long since
We're
I
talking
was.
about like the angular size.
Yeah, the percentage.
Well, it
just
depends
like
on the weather, because it gets refracted too. It gets smushed on when it gets close to the horizon.
well, yeah, anything you take near the horizon, it can be affected through the optics. That's why no astronomer that holds, his weight in salts, or is worth his weight in salt, takes any pictures until the moon is above 25 degrees at least. Or
I
is it
think that's the way it
28
should
degrees?
be.
I know it's got to be up in the sky because of the atmosphere and what it can do.
By the way,
Even
I
though
forgot
they
to
claim the atmosphere extends all the way out to the moon these days.
I forgot to mention, I'm going to go ahead and mention it right now. We're going to do a little contest today. If you want to join GLOBEBUSTERS next week, you'll be part of the panel. We'll kind of do this. We're going to do it to the person who leaves the biggest donation on Rockfin. So we'll put a minimum on there, like I don't know, maybe $50. $50. So whoever at the end of the show has the highest single donation over $50, then you will be able to join. If you can't join next week, then it could be the week after, whatever works for you. But we'll probably do that if it works well. We'll do it on a week-to-week basis because we like having a new panel member, somebody who's in the community who might have some fun things to say.
That would be fun. I like that idea a lot.
So let's see. Is there anybody over there at Rockfin yet? No tips yet. So somebody can easily win by putting the $50 up there. All right. So, I don't know. I mean, if anybody, I don't understand where he changed the baseline to 1,100 miles. That just doesn't quite jive with me. Even if you spin the globe, I don't know what difference that makes. You're still doing a triangle with two different people's observations, and those people are a certain number of miles away from each other. You can't just shorten that distance.
Yeah, you know what I want to do? I want to say, show me. I'm going to take this object and put it up in the sky over here.
Right.
And with your camera, you get to tell me how big and how far away it is.
Good luck.
All right? Good luck. Go. Because I don't think it's possible.
No. And again, so what would happen if they measured the sun? I mean,
Yeah, you get the same thing.
I would think so. But again, they just act like everything's so easy, and these guys do, milli-arc seconds, and they can do, seconds of arc, and they can measure with their telescope. I just don't think anybody's actually doing those things. And I think that this is a problem because if you're a scientist who has a worldview that says that no creator can exist or whatever, you're going to continue to output science that matches that. It's just what's going to happen. Anything else is going to be an anomaly, right? It's like these guys with the Michelson-Morley. Well, they didn't actually prove that the Earth isn't moving through space. There are a million other things and bouncing off the wall. And so we're not actually ever getting to the truth of most of these science experiments, right? It's just like Edwin Hubble looks out, and because they saw everything moving away, technically, or at least we appeared to be the center. Well, they had to think of something quick. Well, what would work? How could this work? And then they said, well, what if everybody's the center? Okay, how will that work? Oh yeah, raisin bread. If we're growing on, or blowing up a balloon, or we're in a raisin bread being baked, all the raisins get away from each other. Well, he then goes through his whole diatribe about we have to stay away from the absolute horror of a unique position, right? It must be avoided at all costs. So that is the beginning of what's taken place with science. It's just one atrocity after the next of them basically foregoing the truth for continuing their onslaught of people. And again, here's where I feel weird about it, is because I don't want the world to be run by the Catholic Church either. So I kind of give science some credit for like stepping up and trying to take the helm. But I think what happened is they made some mistakes and they incorrectly postulated some things, and they have a worldview that is probably not going to end up being the correct one. And they have now caused a huge problem for science. I mean, the fact that you can't teach anything else besides evolution in school, and yet we're finding out that evolution is not even scientifically tenable, that they cannot in any way bring any life into play. They cannot make a species. They cannot change species. And there's no transitional forms at all. There's no pre-hippo. There's no giraffe with a half neck. There's no crocodiles just appear. And
I would be okay with them saying, hey, some people think that it's this.
Absolutely.
While others think that it's this. But there is, the people who believe evolution is true, it doesn't have any scientific backing to it.
No. But yet it's taught in school. It's the only thing you can teach. And so children are coming out of.
I did.
Yeah, junior high and high school, and believed that is a fact.
Mr. Corey. He's the one I would listen to. He was my world history teacher freshman year. I came out of that class and I was like, well, this religion stuff is nonsense.
Right. That's what I kind of went to a Jesuit school, and I kind of was disillusioned with school because I said, wait a second, why are we being taught on one hand all this stuff with evolution, and then the other hand I'm being taught religion, which completely flies in the face of that. I just got tired of it, basically. I just said, I can't take this anymore. It was kind of like pulling me in both directions. Now today, I totally see why they did that, and I do believe that these guys want you in a belief system. They don't care what the belief system is. In fact, I would even go as far as to say they don't even mind if your belief system is flat Earth, if you're just simply a believer in that, and you kind of
if you're just believing, you've never,
right.
That's what they love. They just want someone who's going to follow.
Right, because then you're controllable. Then they know this person's not. And if you're afraid of making a mistake, or you're afraid of going out on a limb, that's exactly what they want. They want those kind of people, so they can control you, and they can, you sit around and wait for somebody to tell you when you have to put your mask on and when you have to take it off. So I think that's right up their alley. That's what they go for. And so the people that are in the middle, who can honestly weigh options, who can look at evidence and decide for each individual action or each individual case, they can make a choice whether to believe it or not believe it. That's the most dangerous person, because you're actually looking, like, for instance, there's no globe earther that's looking into, we're going to look up right now, Taboo Conspiracies video, which is incredible. And I've tried to kind of debunk this myself a couple times last night, and I can't. So what is going to be the answer? If you haven't seen this yet, you're in for a treat. This is new world record.
Hello, everyone.
616 miles. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, what was the person up there? 14,000 feet or something? What are they going to say? 100 feet. But when you watch this, tell me if you think it could be anything else, or do we have a new world record, and one that's hilariously a globe fail in the fact that they're missing about 35 miles of curvature.
I have an awesome video to share with everyone today, and it comes from the YouTube channel Shimshon. Shimshon currently has only 4 subscribers, and so I highly recommend you head over to his channel, subscribe, and show your support and gratitude. I'll have a link in the description. Shimshon has a serious tech background. He was a graduate of University of California, San Diego in the STEM program. Unlike the globe trolls who frequent our channels, Shimshon actually worked in the
You can watch this. I'm going to fast forward through some of his background information here.
Data using complex algorithms written in C and Forth. None of that really makes any sense to me, and the Owen Benjamin Israeli Bears. Shimshon actually first came to the Flat Earth when he saw Owen Benjamin's analysis of my video, Our Flat Earth Journey, Romania, back in 2019. Oh, and if you happen to watch this video, I just want to thank you again for helping so many people open their eyes to the truth of the flat Earth. Anyways, after watching our flat Earth journey, Shimshon decided that he wanted to see too far as well, but in his own way. Filming long distances has now become a hobby for him. That brings us to this particular footage that was taken on May 14th, 2023 in Israel. According to Shimshon, he had been preparing for years to capture that very footage. The current recognized world record long-distance ground-to-ground photograph from the Beyond Horizons website is this photo at a distance of 275 miles. It's an impressive record, but that world record pales in comparison to what Shimshon filmed, and this wasn't filmed from the top of a mountain, but only from about 133 feet. The observation comes from the Ashkelon National Park in Israel. According to Google Maps, the elevation at that location was 128 feet. Add 5 feet for the camera's tripod, and that gives us an observation height of about 133 feet. I have the coordinates listed here on the map.
Sorry, I'm just going to rewind. I'm trying to do this
According
myself
to
as well.
It's an impressive record, but that world record pales in comparison to what Shimshon filmed, and this wasn't filmed from the top of a mountain, but only from about 133 feet. The observation comes from the Ashkelon National Park in Israel. According to Google Maps, the elevation at that location was 128 feet. Add 5 feet for the camera's tripod, and that gives us an observation height of about 133 feet. I have the coordinates listed here on the map. This was his camera and setup on that day. I don't know much about cameras, but Shimshon is using a full-spectrum infrared camera here. According to Shimshon, this is better than the Nikon P1000 for long-distance viewing, and it cost him less than $600. I hope at least 100 of you go out and get this setup. I certainly need one of these. Here's his equipment list for those who are interested. Pause the video if you need to. Much like this Canigou photograph that was taken in France from a distance of 163 miles that you can find on the Beyond Horizons website, Shimshon instead planned to capture the setting sun behind the Greek island of Crete. But the distance between Ashkelon National Park in Israel and the highest point in Crete was 616 miles. That's 453 miles further than that Canigou photograph. And the only way you're going to see that far is through a full-spectrum infrared camera. Let's watch the footage. I'll leave a link to the unedited version in the description. There is some confusion on exactly what platform that is. Unlike many other countries, Israel seems to keep those things a little bit more hidden, and so you have some maps showing platforms much more north, while some showing the platforms much further south. The GPS coordinates are off as well. Shimshon didn't even know that the platform was going to be there when he planned this event. Although interesting, the platform and location doesn't affect the observation because we're relying on where the setting sun is and the angle to it. As you can see from this rough diagram, SunCalc placed the sun in direct line with Crete, but it gets better. So, how can we confidently say that Shimshon actually filmed Crete 616 miles away, and those aren't some distant clouds? First, keep in mind that the whole event was carefully planned and executed, including a specific date and vantage point. This wasn't an accidental viewing. He used a high-zoom, full-spectrum camera to capture what very few people would be able to do, to capture the silhouette of Crete in front of the setting sun. Second, the silhouette in front of the...
I'm just going to move Google Earth here so I can show you that I just was punching it in, and from that location, this is where the sun would be setting on the 15th. So, right in line with the observation line. Now, of course, on Google Earth, we have to...
Well done, man.
Get way over here to see the island here. Now, this is incredible to me because we have not seen anything close to this. Canigou 175 miles is, kind of the one I do my go-to. It's the, easily proven one. But when you look at where this guy is, what else could he possibly be shooting? Let's watch, because Is it grainy? Yeah, it's an infrared camera shooting 600 and something miles, but this is open and shut. I mean, here's the sad thing about what I hate about Globers too, is that it doesn't matter what we show them, there's an answer. Oh, it's a heavy refraction day. Oh, that lifted this thing 35 miles into the sky and left it right at the horizon line. Give me a break. Let's continue.
The sun certainly looks like pointing mountains in the distance, much like Kenegu, which further supports Shimshon's claim. What are the odds that at the exact time of his planned observation, clouds just happen to form at the same angle with the setting sun that appear to look exactly like mountains? Possible, but not probable. But more importantly, the silhouette of the mountains in the actual video closely matches the same results from Google Earth. Here we have our pathway from the camera's location to the highest point of Crete. According to Google Earth on May 14th, 2023, this is what the sunset should have looked like on the same pathway. Keep in mind that Google Earth adds a phony curvature drop, which distorts the view of the mountains. Regardless, compare Google Earth sunset with the actual video. I have them here on top of each other. The silhouette of the mountains in Shimshon's video appears very similar to what Crete should have looked like from that angle. And the sunset angles match as well. Those two facts strongly support the claim that Shimshon did indeed film Crete. Let's get to the coup de grace of the globe. At an observation height of 133 feet and a distance of 616 miles, we get a target hidden height of 240,197 feet, or 45.5 miles. Here are the calculations in metric. For some perspective, a height of 45.5 miles would be enough to hide 88 of the Burj Khalifas stacked on top of each other. The highest point on Crete is Mount Ida at 8,058 feet, or 1.5 miles. That means the tallest point on Crete should have been 39 miles below the geometric globe horizon. The top of those points should be 39 miles below the curvature from the vantage point of Israel. Of course, the hired globe propagandists aren't going to give up their livelihood and surrender to the flat earth truth, but come on. Shimshon's video evidence here destroys the globe for the honest and reasonable person. There is simply no way that Crete should have been visible 616 miles away at a mere observation height of 133 feet. I don't care what imaginary pixie dust you throw at it in your ridiculous attempts to maintain your globe indoctrination. The
refraction
illusion is dead here. Thank you for watching.
Excellent video by Ben, former GLOBEBUSTER. I'm going to throw that there. What do you guys think?
That was awesome. Now we need
I would
someone
run
to do
outside and just lay on.
the Rob Skiba, Rick Hummer. They need to go to Crete and
Right.
start going away from it and keep it in the camera the whole way, the 600 miles. That would be something right there. But no, that really did look like that silhouette. Yeah, I mean,
Somebody said, why
grainy,
not
you know?
use a telescope? He used an infrared camera, which is better than a telescope.
Way better than a telescope.
So
P1000s are stronger than a lot of telescopes. When you look at like the moon or stars or anything like that, telescopes, I mean, it's just a little speck in there, unless you get a really high end, 8-inch or 12-inch, one of the big ones.
And I'm going to bring up one other thing I wanted to show you, and then we'll get some feedback from you guys, and we'll go over to Rock then. But I wanted to show you, let me see, I'm going to find this here. So I found this channel, and you ever have one of those things that happens and it's kind of like serendipitous, or it's like fate. I stumbled upon this channel of this guy, and don't tell me it's not saved on here. Hold on, let me see. Oh yeah, this is it. I think. Yeah. So I found this guy's channel. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. His name is Achilles, but it's Achilleas. Achilles 7. So let me show you.
I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, me neither. So I started out and I was looking at his channel, and I think that I saw him say something in a chat on an old video of mine about Brenda, and Brenda was going to be in his new video or something. And I saw it just the other day, and I went and looked. I was like, oh, I never saw that video, but I couldn't find that video. But then I went to, let me show you guys over here. Let's go to browser. All right, so here's his channel. It's just a bunch of bike racing, things like that. But if I go back in time, so if I go videos here, and I just tried to see who is this guy, what has he been up to? And so I just scrolled to the bottom, and I'll show you what I found and why I was so interested. So as I got to the bottom, I saw this, The Great Deception. I'm like, what's going on there? And then I saw all these planets videos, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, looks like Venus. So this guy is a photographer, astronomer, whatever.
Some really good pics, man.
Yeah. So I started thinking, wait a second, why is this guy watching my videos? I was thinking to myself, didn't I get his name from my chat and he was talking about Brenda? So I started going through some of these videos because let me show you, pictures of Jupiter like that. I've never seen that before. I want to find the one. Doesn't this thing tell me what the ones I've watched? There's one with the moons of Jupiter. Let me find it here. Maybe it's this one. No. Let me get up here a little bit more. Okay. Well,
is that like motor? Yeah, motocross.
Yeah, motocross, something he does.
Must be a wild one, man.
Oh, here it is. Jupiter and Moons. So this says Jupiter and Moons animation. So I clicked on this, and let's see what it says. So remember, this guy he says Jupiter animation 9/9/2013, 25 frames, 1 frame per minute. The time was from 5:43 to 6:10, and he's watching the moons. Let's get out here a little bit more. You can see them here. Now, again, he's only doing about 45 minutes of time lapse, so you're not going to see any movement. It's not like you're going to see him go around. But he's just taking that, and I said, okay. So this guy, who's obviously taking better photographs than most people can with his camera, must be a flat earther or something, because why is he watching my show and commenting on Brenda and laughing with everybody? So I just kept looking through some of his stuff, and I found up here, okay, so this video here was called The Great Deception. I don't even know why I clicked on it. I just was like, what is the Great Deception? So I started watching this video and I couldn't even follow. Like, what exactly could F stand for? Like, I don't even know what he's talking about. What is F? And you'll see he says, I failed to notice something terribly important. And he goes on and on. And then he gets to, thankfully, Thor News came to the rescue. All it needed was another angle. So he goes on. He's talking about, let me go back here. Now he starts going into the details about the names of these moons and Discordianism.
He's actually in chat. He said this was taken before he realized the truth with a 14-inch telescope. Yeah,
he's in the chat.
One of those big ones. Yep, he's actually a mod. Achilles 7.
I've never even seen his stuff. Does he want to come on the show? Do you want to come on and tell us about your journey? So am I correct that you used to be a big believer in space?
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah, this was before he realized the truth. That's awesome.
Well, this particular video here, it looks like something happened that he was filming. This is what I didn't understand. So he starts filming let me see if I can find where exactly it was. It was like he filmed the moons around Jupiter, but then found an issue with it. And then tried to match it to his observations and didn't match. I'm trying to remember exactly where it was at that I saw that. But if he wanted to come on, I could send him, what's that say? I don't know if you want to come on or not. We'll see.
I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if he's heard it yet.
Okay. Because I'm very interested in somebody who used to look through a telescope and who, obviously, by his stuff, he knew everything about this stuff. I mean, if you go back and look at down here, I mean, he's talking about, here's the rise of. Oh yeah, here's another one. I saw this moon pop out right here. Or maybe this is the one I was talking about. Yeah, maybe this is the one. Wait, I'm trying to remember now. The rise of Io. Starring Jupiter, Io, Ganymede, Europa. So he's got a nice telescope, obviously. Here's from 4 to 6. Is this the one where you start pointing out? Let me see here. And I'll make this bigger for everybody. Sorry. Go here with it. So yeah, I couldn't tell, is this real or is this an animation? And I know when you say animation, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not real, because you could just be putting images together, but this is incredible work if it's real. And then I noticed that you if something doesn't match or you start pointing an arrow.
One of them might be from NASA. I know he said he's comparing his video with NASA's video.
Okay. Is this the one where he's like pointing it coming out?
I've never heard of anyone actually watching it rotate from their home telescope.
See, now Alex Jones said this one night that you could actually see the moons moving and it's spinning.
Well, I've seen that.
Those big telescopes.
I've seen the moons
the
move.
Stripes on Mars there.
That was Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter, sorry.
Yeah, you'd have to ask him. Is he saying he wanted to come on or no?
He's saying he's not set up for it. No
Okay.
mic, no Chrome.
No problem.
That's all right, brother.
I just now,
Hey,
I don't want to get anything wrong on any of
Yeah.
this. So all I noticed was, and hopefully I can find that video I'm talking about. There was one where it seemed like he had compared. Maybe it's this one.
Wow, he took 2,000 frames to
Really?
build 60 seconds of a rotation.
So no matter where Jupiter is in relation to the sun, we always see a full disk. Anyway, it kind of seemed like he had gotten to the point where he had started to doubt everything he was seeing. And I thought it was because, so here we go. See, this is a view from a 14-inch telescope through the Earth's atmosphere from 650 billion kilometers away instead of 3 billion, and from an amateur astronomer. So I thought this point was interesting, that he's saying that look what he can do with just a telescope at his house and no money, right? And he's actually getting better results than NASA does. He's actually doing better than they do. Looks better than what we get. But then it seemed like it didn't match. Maybe I'm missing something here. So we can see these moons he's like pointing here. Maybe he can explain in the chat what I'm looking at. I think it's right after this that right about here. He's going to say something is wrong. And then, so he says, please send me 22 billion a year, 55 million per day, and I can improve this greatly.
Greatly. I love that.
So I don't know what he means by improve it. He's improving it by faking it, or?
No, he's saying he could get better footage than what NASA is showing us.
And it says, ever heard of the Lucifer Project?
I wonder if you talk about the telescope.
That's the telescope. The big one that was called Lucifer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Vatican.
LGB, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken.
Now it's called Lucy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they got away from that name real quick. Well, I know someone else is operating it now.
Oh, it's not the
I
Vatican
don't know
anymore?
if it's still owned by the Vatican, maybe, but I know it's like for certain types of researchers, maybe school or something like that, or some kind of grad program. But it's not. I don't think it's being used by the Vatican anymore.
You were on the right one. It's part F, Discordia, that I compared the two videos. Yeah, we're there. I just don't know which part. So, what is your thoughts on Eris now? Because I've had a similar. So I saw that he was saying that he thought Eris might be a problem or coming into the solar system at some point, sometime. But I do know that what's weird about the orbit of Eris versus, I wonder if they'll show it on Stellarium. What I always thought was weird about it is it kind of matches the NASA logo. As far as the one little weird, they've got the little one orbit. But if you kind of look at the plane, let me see if I can bring it up here. So I go Stellarium, which is a nice place. But I just wanted to know I know Eris was supposed to, what's crazy about this guy's channel too, is if you go back into his archives here, he's got, I think it's the furthest I've seen. Maybe I just haven't been paying attention. What's the furthest back you've seen a video, say how many years ago? Say for a while.
This channel?
Or any channel on YouTube. What's the oldest video you've seen it say? Like
usually like 11 years. Recently it is like the oldest I've seen.
Right, look
I
at
haven't
this
seen
guy's.
many past 11.
This guy goes to 17.
Holy.
Yeah.
Was he like on day one?
I know, I've never seen that before. I was like 17 years ago. And then you've got all this. And then for him to become a flat earther, I think is huge. If he's a flat earther or if he's become a skeptic, it's huge because most of these guys are like, just look through a telescope and you'll realize that everything we're saying is true.
And here's someone who actually does it.
Right. Who does it and then fell out.
Does it a lot, not just every once in a while, a couple times a year. You can tell he's been out there doing it.
Yeah. And he knows what he's doing and he's got, his different settings down on the camera. Saturn animations. Did you ever see any moons of Saturn, Achilles? I started the channel in 2005 or so. 12 years for me. So timestamp is 10 minutes in. Okay. I forgot what I just asked him. What did I say?
I've never seen the moons of Saturn through my.
Oh, yeah.
I only had the P610 at the time, but I did get some good pics of Saturn. But I've seen video of people getting the moons of Saturn. The 5 of them, I believe, are visible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've never seen it through a telescope myself either. A 10-minute spot. Okay, let's go to this 10-minute spot. I see what he's saying here. So let's go here. I don't know if there's any sound or not. Is it still on the screen? Yeah, just give it a second. Come on, internet. Let's go. Hello. Maybe I have to shut it down or something. Let's see here. I probably don't need Google Earth anymore right now. I'm going to get rid of that.
Looking at that's every bit as
There we go.
passionately imaginative as science fiction. But you guys are working on it.
Yeah, I agree. Flatter says we need Achilles on GLOBEBUSTERS. Yeah, reach out to me. I don't know if you're on Telegram. At that point, I actually believed we sent a nuclear-powered satellite to a gas giant. That is so awesome to see somebody who was married to this kind of stuff, who saw through it. Because I think, you know, for the most part, I don't think I've met, you know, somebody who was a, you know, who looked through a telescope a lot, who has become a flat earther. So obviously he saw enough wrong with it that, where do you feel about Eris now, Achilles? To understand this channel better, it started as an awakening process step by step. That's what's great. That's why I use my channel for as well, is to kind of chronicle my journey. But yeah, if you can get a microphone or if you can do it from your phone or something, I would love to have you on just so you can explain it a little better as to your path. I'm surprised that I haven't heard anything about you. And there we go. Let's subscribe right now. Just hadn't heard about it. And then I just saw you in the chat at a video I was watching recently. And like I said, click through to your channel to see what you're talking about Brenda. And then just start looking through. And then you find out, I'm like, holy smokes, is this guy actually switch from obviously doing all this astronomy work? And I mean, when I went to an observatory, it did not change my mind at all. In fact, it put me more in the flatter side. And I really thought that I would go there and see something. But what I saw is the giant telescope was pointed at the moon. They wouldn't let us move it. It was like, you know, nope, this is what we're looking at tonight. So it's like, okay, well, it didn't look any different than looking through a P900, really. And this is a giant telescope they have, you know, huge ones on the roof of some building. It's ginormous. You have to go up steps to go look through it. And then when we're walking outside, everybody brought their telescopes. And as you walk around in this circle, people are all looking up in the sky, and you can kind of walk up to somebody and they'll let you look through their telescope if you want. But everybody I was looking through, you're just not seeing anything, nothing at all. And then everybody was gathered at this one person's table, and he had his telescope hooked up to a camera that was hooked up to a computer, and he would basically say he was taking these long exposure photos, but then what came back on the computer was just so make-believe, right? And everybody's just standing around oohing and awing. And, you know, I'll make the claim right now that there's no way that that's what was happening there. I believe that it's the same thing that I think I showed you guys how Samsung has this thing on their phone where they tell you they can correct the moon, but somebody's tested it by like making a moon image and then putting it on their wall. So it's like really shitty. And then they take a picture of it and then it returns a picture of the moon. So Samsung phones, when it thinks you're taking a picture of the moon, it fakes the moon to you. So somebody's already proven that.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. So, and it's easily proven. Now, I'm assuming it'd be easily proven on a telescope too. And I'm sure people have done that before, right? If you covered the lens cap, for example, how would the system know that? It would start taking pictures of a certain part of the sky it thinks it's looking at. And then if you were able to get images when you covered the lens cap, you would be able to prove right away that it wasn't actually. So maybe there's some sort of sensor so it knows if that's happening. I'm not really sure. Exactly.
Yeah, anything that close, like there's I know in the P series of Nikon, there's a little sensor right underneath where you click, like right next to your shutter, in between that and the shaft that holds the lens. And if you don't keep that clean, it's crazy. You can't get the moon in very well. I remember I had been out in the desert for a while, and I had my camera with me everywhere, and it just got filthy. And when I hit back in Texas, I was trying to take pictures, and I couldn't. I thought I broke my camera. I was freaking out. Like, why can't I focus in on the moon? What's going on here? And then I finally looked, and yeah, it was just had a bunch of crud on it. But yeah, there is a sensor outside of it. So if you put something over the lens, it would still be trying to. Well, yeah, the sensor would still see the moon. That'd be crazy. I don't know.
I don't know either how that would work. Achilles, what year did you realize there was issues? It must have been 2000. Try the video refocus 2019. Okay. Refocus 2019. Let me know if you see it. Refocus. I don't know if it's down here.
Got a lot of videos.
Yeah. And it must be up here. 2019. Okay. That's way up here then. Because that would be, what, 5 years ago? 2019. So it would be 5 or 6 years ago. Somewhere in here. Refocus 2019. Don't see anything there. I might be missing it. 2017, Great Deception. Here's 2018. 2018. Come on, 2018. 18. 18, 19. Colliding courses. You see anything?
Wow, look at all that stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be stuck. He's got all these different part B, part C, part D, part F on that Great Deception. I want to watch those. Here's 2017, the Great Deception planning season unblocked. So is blocked?
I love watching motocross videos too.
Oh,
that was something I was really into back in the day. We used to go to Redbud Motocross every year up in Michigan.
Am I missing it? Do you see anything I'm missing? 2019.
No, I'm only seeing like a couple of them.
I found it.
In my neck of the woods, we've got the Red Bull Rampage.
What's that? I like the Red Bull rolling cart race. That's pretty cool. What is it called? You know,
where they all make different funny ones. Those are great.
Fun to watch.
Or the flying ones they do.
Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Just watch it from the beginning, or what's he getting over here? Yeah, I found it. I just don't know if you want me to watch it from the beginning. Thank you, Bogan. I found it. I know. Sorry. They were saying, you passed it. Let's see here. What we're seeing. And then I wanted to show you guys something pretty crazy here. Let's see here. But if you're watching and you haven't yet heard how done I was with the underground. What part are we watching here? Talking about I'm assuming that's earthquake you're talking about here. Oh, is this your scope here? Oh. Man, we could really use your help on some of these things that, questions people have about telescopes and, the tracking machines. What are they called? The azimuthal ones? The ones that have the tracking so they can stay even with. To our eyes, the two objects seem close. But are they?
Yeah, the azimuthal equidistant mounts.
Yeah, the ones you have to polarly align.
Mm-hmm.
How far is Jupiter from Earth? Far.
Well, I wonder if he would know. He's done this stuff a lot. Do you believe that, like if someone put a balloon up in the air, you didn't know what size it was, that you could just take a picture of it, and know what size it was? Or even have two people take a picture of it?
We've got Matthew Scattergood says, if there's any of you guys ever want any photos in the night sky, I would be more than happy to help. And the data or photo shows that are mine are photos, not stacked images. Canadian Cool Dude says, I heard years ago from a channel that got pulled that they have software and telescopes and laptops. Oh, I know that they do. But the problem is you think you'd be able to prove that simply by covering the lens cap. So there must be some sort of mechanism that alerts the camera not to come up with images if the lens is off. If the lens is on, the lens cap. You'll have to explain to us maybe what we're looking at here. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is far, but why do you not need to refocus between the two?
Okay, so yeah, I've heard actually people talk about that focus issue, that basically these things are all rendering like almost the same distance. I really think that the more I think about it, because of the distance to the sun and the moon, I wouldn't doubt that those distances are 3959. Because think of how easy it would be for them to reverse engineer everything if they just said, oh, the dome is 3959 away, or the sun, the moon, the stars. So we'll just
make that the radius.
Pull that in and make it the radius. So instead of having a curved sky, now we have a curved Earth. I mean, I would have to dig into that a little bit further, but I think it might be part of it. But anyway, I was going to ask you about Eris. Do you still have any feelings about Eris? Did it already come by? How often does it come by? So if people don't know, Eris used to be called the 10th planet. They don't call it that anymore. But it is the next largest planet that they've demoted. But that's weird because remember we heard about the 10th planet, Planet X.
Mm-hmm. And forever. Right. We've been hearing about it. Yeah.
And Ares is that planet, but they just don't, they like hit it. They don't talk about it being that. But that's what it was. Eris was originally the 10th planet. So I'm just wondering how often it comes around in orbit. Because,
in I think it was 1906 maybe, sometime right around there, they said there was a planet closer than Mercury called Vulcan.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And it went on for like a few years, maybe even a decade or something like that, where it was like supposedly known that this body was up there orbiting the sun.
Let's see here. Eris is the most massive and second largest known dwarf planet in the solar system. It is a trans-Neptunian object. In the scattered disk, it has a high eccentricity orbit. Eris was discovered in January 2005. Oh, that's it? By a Palomar Observatory base team. Okay. Eris has one large known moon. Because Eris appeared to be larger than Pluto, NASA initially described it as the solar system's 10th planet. This, along with the prospect of other objects of similar size being discovered in the future, motivated them to define the term planet for the first time under the definition approved in 2006. Eris, Pluto, and Ceres are dwarf planets, reducing the number of known planets in the solar system to 8. Talks about the discovery. I just wanted to know how over here is what's going to be his orbital period. 559 years. Oh,
what?
And it's so it says 559 years. Its epoch was in May 31st of 2020. So it's that's long gone. Let me see here. Eccentricity, average orbital speed. And that shows it as time of perihelion is 7th of December 2257. I think I'll be here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to plug right into the...
Can't wait.
Yeah. No, I'll be gone by
Set
then.
my timer on Dave's app, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
There you go. But it's got this weird orbit. You know, see, you guys can see the screen right here.
Yeah.
So I've always thought this is kind of the same, you know, if you kind of look at the plane of the solar system like this, and then you look at this, I wonder how close that is to NASA's logo.
Wait, so this is a moon now from... I didn't see the planet there.
It's a dwarf planet.
Dwarf planet. Okay, it looked like it was revolving around a different planet.
Where are we looking? Sorry. You mean on here? I don't know. This one?
Your last screen.
Oh, I was just looking at, so if we take this orbit and you go back and look at Eris, it's this kind of the same. Well, this is I guess it's the other direction.
It looks like it's going around Saturn there.
Here?
To your left.
Here.
Yeah, Saturn's right in the center, and so Eris looks like it's orbiting around Saturn.
No,
this is the
Saturn's
sun.
the green one up above the right of the red dot.
Yeah, this
the
is
red dot in
here.
the center is, that'd be considered the sun.
Oh, okay.
Just
So
weird
it's taking out Jupiter and every planet inside that.
Okay, I see it now.
Doesn't this angle look like, I know it's the opposite, but it just does look like this flipped.
So are there any pictures of this Eris?
I doubt it. Let me see if we look.
He's saying jump to 1332 on his video.
We're going there. 1332. We'll start here at 13.
Like the windy sea.
I gotta turn that down because I have to give some music on there. The first storm. Let me turn it up. Is he neither one?
Only the kings.
No. First speech in Parliament after 12 days in office. Strong earthquake shakes Greek capital Athens. So I'm assuming here you were talking about possibility. The heavens declare the glory of the Lord. That's Werner von Braun's quote, or they put on his tombstone. Downtown Athens. What do you say? 12 something or 13 something? We're getting there.
Oh yeah, 1332.
So here, can't focus on both wings and head of an insect. And yet, right? Because he's gonna have to choose one to focus on. What is that? What was that in the corner?
We're seeing a different one on the on the call over here.
Oh, because I don't have this page up for you. Sorry. Here we go. He just had let me rewind it just a hair. Let me go back 20 seconds. Oops. Back. This thing. What is this?
What the heck? That's the moon. Looks like.
With Saturn behind it, I guess it was. How about that? Galilean moon. Oh, that is the moon. Okay.
Yeah.
Moon and Saturn together. Wow.
Wonder what are you using here? What is this?
I think this is his 14-inch that he has.
Oh.
Telescope.
Our views differ today, but not tomorrow. Because you are not.
This is still that Achilles footage?
Yep.
Wow.
Took 2 months
Yeah,
to
he's
make.
got some skill.
Took 10 days. Yeah, he can like move things around in video. I have no idea how to do this. I've been doing video for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to have you on so that you could kind of talk us through your journey or your fall from grace, whatever you want to call it. I only enjoy it as much as any other job. I'd rather be sailing. That's just crazy. I don't think most of us, I've never seen it turn.
No, and mine, I could barely make out the stripe.
Yeah, I couldn't even do that. I mean, I had like checked before, like, 8 o'clock at night when it just had risen and looked at the moon location, and then went and checked later in the night, like at 2 a.m. But the weird thing for me is that I started to do these kind of math in my, or, drawings in my head about the fact of just like the moon spins, right? And the sun spins. Well, so does Jupiter technically spin from one side of the horizon to the other. And therefore I was like, well, are the moons moving, or is it just my perspective of it changed? But I think when those people do those time lapse, obviously that's all you need to see to kind of know that they are moving. So, all right, well, that's another thing I found yesterday I thought was quite interessante. So now I'm going to bring up the YouTube chat, and we're just going to get a good list going for the next 15 minutes or so of issues with Globers. I'm going to write these down. And then we're going to go over to Rockfin, and we'll talk about some of them and be able to be a little bit more risque, if you will. So let me bring this up here. So start thinking of issues with Globers that you have, or things, problems with them. You can piggyback on things that we've already talked about, or bring us something new. I'm going to bring up this chat 1 second. I think this one will work. Okay, good. All right. And I'm going to bring up the Rockman chat just so we have that as well. And let's go with Rockman, just so I can see what you guys are saying. All right, great.
Yeah, I watch YouTube real good. I got my notepad open.
Beautiful.
So yeah, anything you guys have, I'll even try to include names. Nick.
All right, so I see, is anybody coming on the show next time? Not. Oh, Doug is Doug. Says, first, miss you, Bob. Proud of the boys and ladies are stepping up to keep the GLOBEBUSTERS going strong. So Doug is in the lead for joining us next week as a ceremonial GLOBEBUSTER. If you want to
Welcome, Doug.
Beat him, just get in a donation higher than 50 by the end of the show, which will be around 3 o'clock. So let's get back on here. And I just want to make sure I've got that done. Great show. Thank you very much for Flat Earth Cat. And Big Pine Sailing says Saturn. Focus on Saturn and Jupiter at the same time. Okay. And then we're going to grab, I just want to grab the YouTube chat. Oops. YouTube singled out chat. And then we'll bring everything here. Let's go here. Just so I can put you guys on the screen when we read these. All right. Properties. Drop that in there. Okay. So now I've got everything on the screen. It should be, you guys can see, I think, too, from where you're at. So let's go add this one to here. Main, yep. And we're going to add scene YouTube chat. Okay. And let's make sure that's working. Hey, there you go, Aisling. It says support free speech. And let's cut over to this. And I'm just going to move, whoops. What happened to her? Okay, there we go. Just want to move this a little bit. Let's go with YouTube single out chat here and move up there. All right. Now we're good. Got everything on the screen that we need. I think we are ready, and I'll pull this over. All right. So if you guys have ideas, we're naming things, problems with Globers. For me, I'll start out, they're blinded by the religion of scientism. Not one of them has ever shot a radar off the sun. Nobody's ever measured the distance to the moon or to the sun. They don't even know how it was done. They stand on the shoulders of giants too much, to the point where you've opened yourself up for deception. But the thing is, they don't care about that because they don't want the truth, right? They want the truth to be that God is fake and that religions are stupid and that science is the end all be all.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's exact. Yeah.
Anybody go ahead. You can either put them at me.
They love the strawman. That's all they got. They don't know how to attack us, and so they end up coming up with their own strawman version of the flat Earth and attacking that instead.
They love to do that. So emotionally unstable is a good one. I'm putting strawman kings. Oh
yeah, not genuine.
Yeah, not
There's
genuine.
so many of them. I'm not going to put that on all of them, but there are definitely a group out there that have been around since 2015. Same people,
right.
Same arguments that 20 plus people have explained to them.
So I'm going to put can't steal man because they can't even get our what we believe down, which you should be able to do. If you're going to attack somebody's belief, you should be able to repeat what their belief is, right? That's what we do. We know what the globe belief is, and so we say it and then we knock it down. We don't make a fake globe belief and then knock it down. See what else we got here. They don't realize the vast majority of their arguments are fallacious. Okay, I'm putting fallacious arguments. I don't know how they don't know other than they just were given them, and so they figure no teacher could ever give me a fallacious argument or something. They commit petitio principii. Okay.
Every time.
Okay, let's see what we got else here. Please explain what light speed means without using useless figures. Wait, what? Please explain what light speed means without using useless figures. Not sure what you mean by that. They're unable to admit their articles of faith in their belief system. They'll never admit that. Unable to admit. Yeah, they don't get it because if I try and tell them, oh, well, you never sent anything to the sun, you never sent radar, so you just believe that. They'll be like, no, because but the paper's there. The paper's been peer reviewed. It's been none of this stuff is getting peer reviewed, and nobody's going out to disprove somebody who says they've radared the sun. There's no money in that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a quick exit door.
They follow the majority out of fear of rejection. So much as that.
Yep, follow majority out of fear of rejection. Okay.
What about fear of the creator?
Yeah, it might be that. Fear of the creator. I mean, I really think that a lot of it stems from they think the religion that they were given is so dumb, and then they forget that it doesn't mean God's dumb, right? They go, these Christians are dumb. They believe in this God, so we don't believe in that God, so we say God's dumb and doesn't exist. It's like, well, hold on a second. If you're going to go as far as to say these guys are dumb, we don't like these guys, then you probably shouldn't take their version of who God is and then dismiss that and call that a win, because how do you know God isn't something else? They just they go right to calling who they think are idiots and then taking their actual work and saying, we don't believe in your work, therefore God doesn't exist.
What they claim is not testable.
Okay.
I mean, that's astrophysics.
Yeah.
All wrapped into a big giant ball right there.
Right. It's not scientific. It's not falsifiable. Right. I mean, again, we just showed a 661-mile observation. That should end it, but won't, because they can say anything. They'll just show up and if you watch these guys' channels, if they catch wind of this, they'll either claim it's a fake video or they'll say refraction was really high and it works out with Balter-Bislin's calculator. Of course, you can move the little refraction dial as far as you want to the right until you can see your own ass. So we shouldn't be surprised.
They're blinded by complexity. They see a complex mathematical equation and say, oh, I don't understand it, therefore it must be true. And that's their whole thing. And
thank you, Scattergood.
We get our greatest power. Our greatest power comes in simplicity. We just point at the basic facts, and that's it.
Right. We don't need strawmen. I've never strawman them because I don't need to. In fact, I have a problem with their actual beliefs. Why would I make up a new belief? It's like I have enough problems with the ones that they believe. So,
circular logic and proofs that presuppose
attempting
what they want.
Attempting a live chat query regarding Glober's explained light speed. Well, I mean, light speed to me, I feel like I've debunked it in my head, but again, people say it's different with thought experiments or whatever. But yeah, you have to believe that it's traveling crazy speeds, but it takes 8 minutes to get here from the sun. And then these guys figured it out in like 1700 by using candles and mirrors. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're not going to figure out. They couldn't do it now. They couldn't do it today. And yet we're supposed to believe they did back then. Do light travels? If not, then why we talk about Michelson-Morley? Do light travels? You mean like a beam of light? travels? Yeah, I guess it travels in a way that you're able to see, what you would expect from a spinning Earth and what you would expect from or both the light beams going the same speed, or with one going with the curvature of the Earth or with the spin of the Earth. And they found that wasn't the case. So I don't know if that answers you. You can get through a glober when they have total common sense failure. It's very difficult. They prefer math over reality. I agree with that one. Prefer math.
Yeah, math over reality.
Which again,
math is reality.
Right, and some types of math is reality. Like I believe, like arithmetic is hard to argue against. Addition, subtraction will always be what they are.
If you have 2 apples, you add 2 more. Now you have 4 apples.
Right. So
that will work the same way every single time.
Correct. As long as you can prove that the 2 apples and the 2 apples exist. Now, when you start making up things in the sky, well, that's not proof just because you can do math. Say, well, 2 plus 2 is 4. Yeah, it is. But where are these apples in the sky? Oh, we can see them. Just make it up. They just.
I mean, you can say that there's a light up there because that's all you really know about it. You don't know if it's physical. You don't know if it's holographic. We have no clue what something is until you can actually go up to it and put hands on it, play with it.
And
that's how we know things.
Couldn't you
but
also
just looking at something doesn't work?
Couldn't you also plug different numbers in for the masses of different planets and still make it work? Like, for instance, let's say that we're just trying to do the solar system and we see, who assigned Jupiter a mass? The fact that they think they could assign one to the Earth is ridiculous, but they actually say they know the mass of Jupiter. Like, why would we ever give these people that kind of credit? What do you mean? You measured the weight and mass of the planet Jupiter in the sky? No, you didn't.
Nope.
Not at all.
Well, yeah, and it all started with what? Venus, right? Well, it's about the same size as Earth.
Miracle.
So
and
when
this
it
is
transitioned the sun, okay, how'd you know about Venus, though?
Right. So this is where, Craig, where I was trying to go after him and saying, like, Craig, you can't say, oh, well, Feynman says if it doesn't match this, and it doesn't, because it's like, no, everything along the whole way has been like perfect, right? Like when he said, well, it matches exactly what we were expecting. So it's, true then. It's like, yeah, do you realize that this is the story of science, why we've all backed away from it and said, hold on a second, time out. How is it that you have all these perfect little stories, almost like the whole thing has been set up? Oh, how we discovered Neptune and Pluto was because of the magic of math, and that they looked at their mathematics and they said, oh, there must be a planet here. Yeah, right. Why wouldn't you think that maybe your numbers were off on the other planets? Maybe the mass was off. The size. The stories they tell are so fantastical that it's just insane to think about. The first measurement that they got to the moon is insane. Right? They say Aristarchus, I think, got it or tried to figure it out. And it's because he looked at a half moon in the sky and said, okay, well, if that's a half moon, then it means that we can draw a straight 90-degree angle to the sun from there. So he, does that, then says, okay, the sun's there. There's a 90-degree angle to the sun and then to the Earth. And then he said, well, I just need to figure out now the other leg of the triangle, which would be from the Earth to the sun. And it says he measured that angle. Well, what do they mean by that? What do you mean you measured your angle to the sun? From just in front of your, like if I go out in front of my house right now and point a telescope at my sun or at the sun, I can measure an angle to it? I guess I don't understand it at all. And then he came back with 87 degrees. And then when you do the mathematics for that it comes back that the moon is 18 times smaller and 18 times closer than the sun. Well, of course, now the number is 400. And they say that the reason he got it wrong is because the answer is not 87 degrees, but 89.98. Yeah. Like, who can measure that? Somebody can measure 89.98 degrees to the sun? What are you talking about? Doesn't even make sense.
Nonsensical.
Doesn't
it
make
really
sense.
is.
See if there's anything else. Guys, we're looking for donations over $50. Join us next week. And also, problems with Globers. Please send some in.
Oh, yeah, I just saw a good one.
Okay.
Think that if you don't have credentials in a specific field, then you aren't capable of having the same understanding or knowledge as someone with an indoctrinated degree.
Which is just a fallacy to start with. Just because you have a degree does not make anything you're saying true.
No, Bryant, was that his name?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he proved that very well. If you didn't see the debate with Bryant.
But I wrote a book about it.
He supposedly taught at college level this stuff. And anybody who knows anything about electricity and stuff like that, this man knew very little. He knew the equations. He didn't understand or comprehend what they said, though.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can remember, a parrot can tell you an equation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't
and that's
mean
all these
that it
guys are good at, right?
comprehends
They're
what's
just,
going on.
they know the equations and they think that makes them smart. It's like, no, somebody else gave those to you. You didn't come up with them on your own. You're just repeating them, plugging the numbers in that they gave you, and you feel good when you get the answer they've told you to get. Cami says it's all back engineering to the baseline given. I believe so. This is, Oakley had it right when he called it the perspective hijacking curve calculator. It's exactly what it is. We've got the math supports both geocentrism and heliocentrism. They support the latter on philosophical grounds, not scientific grounds. Correct. And it's not like they took both and said, let's test both and see which one matches reality more. They said, this one cannot be true and will never be true, and we'll throw it away. And we'll do whatever we can to make this other one go forward, which included expanding universe because it had to be expanding. Otherwise, how is everything moving away from everybody? Oh, well, if it's all expanding and it's moving away from, great idea. So they went with that. Now it's coming back that those things aren't even happening. And we should, now I'm like smarter about these things. When you hear things like the universe is expanding or everything's moving away from us, show me everything moving away from us. Because you can't just tell me that and then say, oh, we're basing that off of Redshift, this and that. And then you look up this, see if I have this paper here. I think if I remember, so I have Facebook open. Yeah, I have a paper here that was written by, who is it was like, let me find it here. I think it's in here somewhere. It was a paper about Redshift not even being what they think, which is, I mean, talk about how this is what I mean by we're going to see something in our lifetime that's going to see cosmology and all the science hit the ground. And it's going to be kind of funny to watch what happens. Because I know science is not going to let it go. They're not going to let their baby go. Right? So
it's going to get ugly.
It's going to get ugly.
There's going to be some name throwing. There's going to be some,
It's not going to be pretty. I mean, you should have seen this debate with, what's his name? Professor Dave. Who, he's calling James Tour the whole time a liar. I was like, James, just point out the fact that he's not a professor, please. He couldn't do it.
And just say it.
Like, just say it. He's just calling you a liar. Tell him he's a liar. So this is talking about the redshift blunder that has been obstructing cosmology for over a century. So imagine over 100 years that they've been barking up the wrong tree. They've been building upon a faulty foundation. As light travels extreme distances through space, its frequency slowly diminishes. We observe this phenomenon as a redshift, the tendency of visible light to drop towards the red end of the spectrum. Unfortunately, for over 100 years, redshift has been misinterpreted as Doppler effect. This is the fundamental cosmological error that creates the fatal flaw in these misconceived hypotheses: Big Bang Theory, expansion, Hubble's law, dark matter, dark energy. This study explains the true nature of redshift and provides a formula for estimating the rate at which light attenuates over extreme distances. When redshift is properly understood, it can tell us how far light travels before it drops beneath the visible spectrum. So, again, these things are going to start coming out that they're not even right about redshift being Doppler shift. So, if that's the case, then think of everything that's been built on that that's going to be considered wrong. So again,
this is one of Cami's big things we've been on for the last couple weeks. It's driving her nuts that there's so many that believe that this can only happen, with the Doppler effect, an object moving away from you or towards you to create the blue and away to create the red.
Right. When
in reality, it's just the bending of polarity. Like, you can see this on the magnets when you look at them with the ferrocell.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it works. One side creates like this bluish tint when you kind of tilt it towards it, and when you tilt it the other way, the other pole creates like this reddish hue. So, I mean, there's other possibilities than just it moving away and moving in. And those are the things we really need to focus on, in my opinion, it's a little more advanced when you start talking about polarities of optics and magnetic fields doing things. And we really need to get some neater toys to be able to show people this stuff so they can go up to it and manipulate it themselves and be like, oh, okay, I see how this works now.
Right.
No one talks about the filter effect, and that's what I think what you're talking about here is a filter effect, but it's like a polarized filter. But just passing through gas itself can act as a filter and end up changing the color that you're seeing. And no one, oh yeah, there's nothing between us and that star billions upon billions of miles away, right?
Yeah, so this says here, over extreme distances through space, the energy of light gradually diminishes, attenuates. As its frequency slowly reduces, its wavelength correspondingly increases. We observe this phenomenon as a redshift, the tendency of light, visible light, to drop towards the red end of the spectrum. Redshift measurements suggest that the energy of light emitted from far distant galaxies may drop beneath the visibility within a range of from 10 to 14 billion light years from us, depending on its frequency at source. I don't know what that means. But again, there's just when I see people pointing things out like this that are so-called scientific, that people are running around. I mean, if you ask somebody, is the universe expanding a fact? They would say yes. They don't have any clue about it. They've never seen it. But ask, Simon Dan, or ask McToon, or ask.
Well, yeah, it's so much easier to just believe the guy with the lab coat, right? The guy with the lab coat looking through the telescope told me, so it's got to be true. I'm gonna go, watch whatever. I'm not gonna
sports,
rip on
football,
anybody for what they do. Yeah, I do. I've been watching a lot of boxing lately, so I'm not gonna rip on anybody for. I have my out. That's my.
We all have to have our little.
Turn my brain off for a second.
So we have Hubble's failed law. In 1927, Edmund Hubble compounded the Slipher error by presuming that galaxies are receding from the Milky Way, and the farther they are away, the faster they are receding. So again, when we hear that, we think that they saw that, but they didn't see it. These are things that are inferred, right? So he's presuming that galaxies are receding from the Milky Way, and the farther that they are away, the faster they're receding. So you just assume that. That's it. Hubble estimated presumed radial velocities of 46 star clusters on the unwarranted assumption that they were traveling on straight line paths diverging from a presumed central colossal explosion. Because of this false redshift assumption, Hubble's law is a failed theory, yet it has become the foundation of the prevailing belief that the universe is expanding and at an accelerating rate. And these are the kind of things.
Shouldn't stars get dimmer then? I mean, if we're moving away from these things, the inverse square law is, it's pretty solid the way it's built. And
I agree. I haven't heard anybody say really that it shouldn't work in the vacuum, but I think it still would work as well. It should. I mean, it shouldn't have any change. It still would fall off at that same. Well, I don't know. It depends. Again, I don't have any light and vacuum that I can test on. Anyway, so there's more places you can find. Just start searching for redshift, cosmology problem, and you'll see it's being talked about. But again, they can't really let this stuff get out very much. Redshift riddles here. Why measuring redshifts isn't enough to understand. Let's see here, redshift. The review of redshift and its interpretation in cosmology is probably one that says that it's not right. The interpretation of redshift in cosmology and astronomy yields a great deal of information about the universe, but much controversy surrounds the correct interpretation. Right, of course. So when you have biased scientists, just remember what happens. All right, it's too late. We're going to head over to Rockfin, and we're going to go through some of these flaws that Globers have and get into detail on some of them and kind of expand on some of them. We'll keep looking at your guys' chat. It'll be free. So go over to Rockfin if you want. I'll grab the link. And it is free until the end of the show, at which time it will go on to the paid plan. And you should, if you haven't supported this show or everybody at Rockfin, you get a huge amount of channels for $15 a month. You're supporting free speech. You're supporting the channel that you sign up under and all the channels that you watch. The way that it works is the acquisition channel gets half, and then the other half of your money gets distributed based on your watching. So if you subscribe through GLOBEBUSTERS and then you only watch me and GLOBEBUSTERS for the entire month, then GLOBEBUSTERS would get half, and then I would get the other half. A very simple situation. It wouldn't probably happen, but you get the idea. So you are supporting everybody if you watch a little bit of Rose and a little bit of Karen and a little bit of GLOBEBUSTERS and a little bit of me, a little Brian Stavely, a little Ironworks, a little bit of Melodome.
Yeah, I try to go to everybody's on Rockfin, and I'll leave it even running in on one of like my phone or something like that.
Nice.
I'll just leave you guys running on, and because I know it helps. I know that stuff helps. That's another thing you guys could do. Yeah, go into Rockman if you can. It really does help everybody out in the community.
Agree.
I know a lot of their chats and stuff like that, they need some work with the their app, the phone app.
But it really does
kinda
help if
hinky.
you remember you're paying for that site. So it does help to, if you have a problem with your phone, email them with the specifics for your phone. You know, it's an iPhone 13, it's on this operating system. This is what's happening, and they have a duty to fix it. So
Yeah, and Dave knows better than any of us how much of a pain in the neck it is when you make changes with all the different. That's why he loves iPhone, because
it's
their
more about the,
hardware and their software is all. This is how it is, and nobody gets to change or manipulate. And you know, this is how it is. You're using it, and as you know, there's one phone maker. It's not like, and there's Samsung and Moto and all these different phone companies. That's a lot of different programs and programming stuff. So it's going to take some time. They're young still. Rockfin is, but yeah, like Jeran said, if you have a problem, send it to them. Let them know about it. They need to know these things. They can't fix a problem they don't know they have.
Right, and if they don't fix the problem, then I wouldn't pay money there personally. So I mean, that's how you hold companies accountable. But we do have to start voting with our money places that are not treating us like other places are, like YouTube. Anyway, so I'm going to leave this one. We'll see here. It's just talking about how I want to read this paper later, actually, because up here it was talking about where are we at? So, there's a large number of interpretations of the observed redshift, and this brings into question the true nature of the observations and their meaning. One particular case where this is especially relevant is in the theories surrounding the origins of our universe. Nowadays, the Big Bang model for the origin of the universe often appears to be accepted as established fact. Its popularity in the scientific community apparently overshadowing all other theories. But is this model necessarily correct? What evidence truly supports this theory over others? It is, in fact, fair for this theory to receive so much acclaim when rival theories seem to be dismissed without being afforded the same privileges and additions and corrections to their problems. So, they just have adopted Einstein, and then they just do little tweaks to it all the way, and it's getting us further and further from the truth, in my opinion. And so I think that's why I do what I do. And because I can recognize this, I can recognize it from, 8 years ago. It's sad that I've been doing this for 8 years, but you can start to see the basis of a deception, right? And I really thought originally, like, somebody will come along and explain this in a way, and I'll realize I was wrong about flat Earth. And as time went on, the opposite was happening, that nobody could explain it. And everything that they had to explain it was name calling and yelling. And it was very strange to see the kind of reactions that it had on YouTube. Like, if I'm so wrong, then just, correct it. Why don't you petition science to create some sort of monument that shows us the curvature there? No, they don't have to do that for you. And,
They are so fast when it comes to name calling.
Right. And also that, like, they don't owe anything to you guys. Yes, they do. We're no different than you. If we give our money to taxes that supplies NASA, then they do owe us something. Okay. I'm not going to pay money to somebody for taxes for my entire life and then have nothing to show for it but tang. Because there needs to be something that we're getting from NASA. And that's, again, I hate to keep pointing this out, but it becomes painfully obvious when you think of the closest star in their stupid model is 25 trillion miles away. And so traveling 100,000 miles per hour, which is faster than anybody's ever gone, it's ridiculously fast and just stupid fast. And if we did that for 24 hours a day, we never slept, we never used the restroom or anything, then we're going 2.4 million miles in a day. Okay. So if we can do that in a day, then we take the 2.4 million miles a day and we go times, oops, am I bad on the math there? 24000. So we take 2.4 million and we multiply that by the 365 and we get 876 million miles a year. Okay, great. Now we take the 25 trillion. Remember, we're just talking about the closest star. 25 trillion, that's a million billion, 25 trillion. And we divide that by the 876 million. And we get 28,538. So that means that for us to get there would take 28,538 years. So anybody spending any time on telling you anything about other suns, other planets, other exoplanets, stars, it's a joke. It's literally the dumbest thing anybody could look into on Earth. It'd be better if you went and searched
The ocean.
Yeah, it's just when swimming out in the ocean, just like we're gonna find this one pebble out here. I mean, it's just and
You'd
then
have better luck. Yeah.
if there's
Finding
30
a grain
years
of
in a
sand.
generation, which I guess on a ship there'd be even less, but let's say there's 30 years, so let's divide by 30 to get how many. So we're talking about 951 generations need to exist on this traveling path to this new star, meaning you need to have 951 grandchildren. Actual you actually have to have generations, 951 generations. So you, your dad, and your grandfather are 3 generations. Your great grandfather is 4. Your great great grandfather is 5. It's how you get to 951, and all those people need to have traveled in a little craft. So it's just stupid.
100,000 miles an hour.
At 100,000 miles per hour. So it's just stupid. And so the fact that they've sold people on this, like, oh, this is so important, we need to go to Mars and we got to do this and pump all this money into it. It's a joke. There's absolutely no reason we should be looking at anything that far away. Maybe when the Earth is absolutely perfect, nobody's dying from hunger, nobody's dying from thirst, nobody's being sexually trafficked, nobody's being held by tyrannical leaders. Then if you want to talk to me, Jeran, do you think we should look out at these stars that are 951 generations? Then maybe I'll say, yeah, sure, we got nothing else to do, right? But I don't feel that way.
Cami shared the definition for redshift, and this is great what it says here.
Okay.
It says, it's the light of receding galaxies toward the red end of the spectrum. This is a quote now from the dictionary. This is interpreted as a Doppler effect or shift, lending confirmation to the theory of an expanding universe.
Oh, goodness.
So it's lending confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny one in itself. And then it says it's interpreted.
That's what it all is. And this is what people miss. I mean, this is, again, there's people out there who think electrons exist. I mean, what can we do? Like, you have to remember that.
Oh, it's so infuriating. Oh, my goodness.
We have to recognize what's being done, that it's okay to name things in a way that's easy to explain them. But explain to people that they're not real. It's a way that we're explaining something.
I've been thinking, the whole positive, negative.
Yeah.
It's real easy. Just 2 other signs: greater than, less than.
Good. Yep.
That's it. That's the only change we need to make.
Is that what when they talk about like the Higgs boson and they say it's got an up and a down? Is that basically what they're saying? Kind of the same idea?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know where they get that up and down and the left and right quark, and it's
yeah.
But again, it's just describing things. It's not again, just see, they tell you what's inside of an atom. Sure, got all these orbits going around. It just looks like a solar system in there. I believe it. Never seen it, but you guys say so.
I'll buy that.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's be done here. All right, I said we were going to Rockfin. We didn't do it. Let's move over there. Thanks, guys, at YouTube. We'll see you next week, 12 noon Pacific. Be here or be sphere. All right, later. Much love.
Later, y'all.
Okay, let me close that out. Peace. And live streaming. And can we stop here? End. All right. So we ended YouTube. Let's go to here and close this out. Welcome, everybody. Rockfin, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. If you're not signed up, it would be very appreciated.